Okay, we're here with Skip Hill, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the work he's done on display. Give us a little background on what we're looking at.
We are here at the Skin Show at the IAO Gallery. The theme of this show is primarily dealing with identity, whether it be racial, sexual, self-identity. In the particular case of the works that I have, I've named this series the La Tête Noire. It's French, dealing primarily with African-American identity. Not only the identity that we have about ourselves, but as well as the identity that's perhaps projected upon us. It's not necessarily a personal story for me, it's more of a cultural, social story about us as a people. This particular piece right here is called Fetish, which deals with the idea of the black male as a fetish. What I have incorporated is different text, names that have been placed upon us, ugly names that we've embraced ourselves as our own. It deals with our idea of identity as a people of color in these United States of America. I use the idea of the heads dating back to ancient Yoruba culture, where ironically this art is highly valuable and collected by European Americans and Europeans, but it's a Nigerian Yoruba idealized bust of dignitaries that they sculpted at about the time of the 15th century. And so I've incorporated that. I also kind of like the idea that they remind you a little bit of, for me anyway, mugshots. Dealing with the issue of the black male often having that element of the criminal element projected upon us, rightly or wrongly. You know? So I'm dealing with that as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed that they're partially acrylic and computer generated.
Yeah.
How did you work out that combination?
I like the idea of collage. I'm kind of working with a theme that's been established by, I guess, someone who would be considered kind of a grandfather of African-American contemporary art by the name of Romare Bearden. Romare Bearden worked primarily with collage. My background is working primarily with oils and acrylics. It was just a natural progression that I would work with both. Rather than try to paint each and every single word here, and I like the idea of using text. Rather than try to paint every single word, I like the idea of generating the text. I also like the idea of incorporating technology as well. Okay. Instead of hand lettering everything, the idea of incorporating, sitting at a computer, designing the text, picking out the fonts, coming up with the words, and then, so there's a degree of separation between me and the actual piece as well. I suppose anyone could sit down and come up with words and generate them in Photoshop, or PageMaker.
Right.
So I like the idea of incorporating traditional media, which would be oils, acrylics, and a more contemporary technological tool, which is computer.
Okay. Well, who are some of your other influences?
Wow, that's
well, the short list anyway.
Well, the short list. They wouldn't necessarily be reflected in my work, but oftentimes they're reflected in my philosophies. I like Romare Bearden, obviously. Artists like Francesco Clemente, who's I like a lot of contemporary art. Old school artists, I love Van Gogh. I lived in Holland for a number of years and had the opportunity to see a lot of his work in the flesh, so to speak, on canvas. Managed to pick up the language, learn the language, so it helped me to read and study his letters that he sent back and forth between he and his brother, which are also written in French sometimes. But Van Gogh, and I know that's perhaps a cliche for some people, but I think his story still resonates with me. Gustav Klimt, someone who I enjoy, and I really like conceptual artists. An artist who was one of my professors at OU, Edgar Heberbergs. Edgar was someone who helped me go beyond just the idea of painting an image and to think about the conceptual aspects of why you're doing what you're doing, and why should anyone care?
Right. And so, what is it that made you realize you were going to be an artist?
I had no say in it whatsoever. It's the way I was gifted, the way I was born. My parents tell me, and my grandmother tells me that at the time of 2 or 3, I was scribbling on paper, and the story she always reminds me of is I took a nail and drew a cowboy. She says I was about 4 or 5 years old. I took a nail and drew a cowboy in her cedar chest where she kept her quality quilts.
Yeah.
And of course I caught quite a tanning for that. I got my butt whipped for that. But at the same time, each time I go back to see my grandmother, first thing I do after I hug her and get something to eat is go and see that. And she still has the hope chest.
Wow.
It's still there. So I've known ever since I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.